Obandis. Beneath the old kitchen floor was a sealed space, barely large enough for a person, empty except for scratch marks on the underside of the boards. They filled it with concrete and moved on. That night the mother woke to scratching from beneath the new floor. She told herself the space was filled now. Nothing could be moving beneath it. The sound continued every night at exactly the same hour, getting very slowly louder. Don't renovate any old kitchens tonight without checking beneath the floor first. It is time for chapter 178. Old houses hold spaces their current occupants never learn about until renovation reveals them. Most such discoveries are mundane. Old newspapers used as insulation, forgotten storage, the ordinary accumulation of a structure's history. But occasionally a renovation uncovers something that was deliberately sealed, not for storage, for containment, and the marks left on the surfaces that form that containment, scratches, deep and consistent, worked into wood from the inside by something with considerable time and considerable motivation. Tell a story that the family removing the floor does not initially understand they are reading. A family had been renovating their kitchen in an old house they had purchased the previous year. The renovation was extensive. New plumbing required removing significant sections of the original flooring. The contractor, pulling up boards that had clearly not been disturbed in decades, found a sealed space beneath, a cavity roughly the dimensions of a small closet, framed with old timber, empty when opened. Except for the scratch marks on the underside of the boards that had sealed it, deep, consistent, covering every reachable surface of the small space. The contractor's honest assessment was practical. Old houses sometimes had strange construction choices. The marks were probably from an animal at some point. Best to fill the space with concrete and move forward with the renovation as planned. The family agreed. The renovation continued. The sealed space was filled, the new subfloor laid over it, the kitchen completed within several weeks. The family settled into their renovated space with the particular satisfaction of a project completed on schedule. The mother was the first to hear it. 3 nights after the kitchen's completion, she woke at approximately 2 a.m. to a sound from below, scratching, distinct, coming from beneath the new floor. She lay in bed and listened, telling herself the sound had an explanation that did not require investigation at that hour. A pipe settling. A pest somewhere in the walls. She went back to sleep eventually. The sound had stopped by the time she woke fully in the morning. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here and that you intend to find your way back. If you have a story of your own, Granny is always listening, watching, waiting. The sound returned the following night, same time, as close as she could estimate, same quality, scratching, rhythmic, coming distinctly from beneath the kitchen floor. She got up this time, stood in the kitchen in the dark, listening. The sound was directly beneath her feet in the specific location she now recognized as where the sealed space had been. She told herself, standing there, that the space was filled with concrete, that nothing could physically be moving in a solid mass of poured concrete. The reasoning was sound. The sound continued regardless. She went back to bed. It happened again the third night, and the fourth. Always the same hour, always the same location, always with a quality that felt disturbingly less like an animal and more like something working, patient, methodical, purposeful. Shak koi, the kitchen floor beneath her bare feet, cold in a way the concrete's temperature did not fully account for. I wonder, if you filled a sealed space with concrete and still heard scratching from beneath it every night, how many nights before you called someone to check? If you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening. She called the contractor after the fifth night. He listened to her description, his tone shifting from the practical dismissal of the original discovery to something more careful. He asked specific questions: the exact timing, the exact location, whether the sound seemed to be changing in any way across the nights. She confirmed it was slowly getting louder. He was quiet for a moment, then said something she had not expected, said this was not the first old house in the area where a sealed space beneath the kitchen had been found. Said the scratch marks were a known feature, that older houses in this specific region sometimes contained such spaces, and that local tradition held very specific beliefs about why and about what should be done when one was found. Said filling it with concrete was, according to that tradition, exactly the wrong approach. You are still here. Good. Some stories need a witness all the way to the end. I wonder, if something had been sealed beneath your kitchen for reasons your contractor knew but had not initially mentioned, would you want to know before or after the concrete was poured? He came to the house the following day, explained what he had not explained initially, that such spaces, according to local practice, were traditionally left accessible. A small removable panel, regular offerings placed inside. The specific belief being that certain things, once contained, required ongoing acknowledgement rather than permanent sealing. That permanent sealing, particularly with something as final as concrete, was understood to provoke rather than resolve whatever the space had originally been built to contain. He offered to open a small access point, not full removal of the concrete, simply a modest opening, and to help establish whatever the traditional practice required. The family, by this point considerably more willing to follow local guidance than they had been initially, agreed. The scratching stopped within a week of the access point being established and the first offering placed. It has not returned. Duh. Some things require ongoing acknowledgement. I have found this to be more common than people expect. I think about spaces sealed with the best of practical intentions. The contractor's initial advice, fill it in, move forward, it's probably nothing, is the advice most people would give and most people would take. Practical, reasonable, And in this particular region, according to a tradition considerably older than modern construction methods, exactly wrong. Some things sealed away require the seal to remain accessible, require acknowledgement rather than permanence. And when that acknowledgement is denied, when concrete replaces the small opening that older builders knew to leave, the response is not silence. It is scratching, patient, rhythmic, getting slowly louder, until someone remembers or is told or simply decides to listen carefully enough to understand what the sound is actually asking for. Da. Some requests simply need to be heard correctly. I have found this true of more than sealed spaces beneath kitchen floors. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If you are renovating an old house and you find a sealed space beneath the kitchen floor, particularly one with scratch marks on the underside of the boards, do not simply fill it with concrete and move forward. Ask your contractor specifically whether such spaces are known in your region. Ask about local tradition. And if you are told that such spaces were traditionally left accessible, a small removable panel, regular offerings, follow that guidance rather than the more practical instinct to seal everything permanently and continue with your renovation schedule. Because permanent sealing does not resolve whatever the space was built to contain, it provokes it, and the scratching that follows, patient, rhythmic, getting slowly louder every night at exactly the same hour, will not stop until the acknowledgement it requires is finally provided. A small opening, a modest offering, and the understanding that some things sealed away need to stay reachable. Not because they are dangerous, simply because they were never meant to be entirely forgotten. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. I would not object. And if you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening.